of junglers, things like the, Poppy that can really make some havoc happen, the Wukong that I think could make some havoc happen. I think those are bans that are both possible. I just would really not like to give over the Rise here. It's going to be the Bard as the playmaker ban for Kael. You know, I understand you don't want him on something comfortable. Varus and Rise still both left available. We'll see what they want to prioritize.
They take the Rise, or they take the Varus. They're going to give the Rise there over to Xiaohu. So despite all the talks about him, flexing his champion mastery over the pool, looks like he will get back to stock standard play on this Rise. And it's AL, I think, the logic here came in for the Varus is we really need to put Hope in the best position to carry. We did him no favors with that Misfortune draft in Game 2.
Yeah, I actually love getting Varus here. This is something that we talked a little bit about off air here, is that I think this is a great pick because not only does it get you something that Hope can be super consistent on, it's been his most played champion this year, but it also kind of incentivizes a Jhin pick from Elk, and anything that can get Elk off of these hyper carries, I will take at this point. Whatever you got to do in order to do that. It will be the Nocturne locked in as the answer to Rise. I really like this duo. I think you can open up the map really quickly, and Varus being an immobile AD carry, kind of threatened by this. Cassio, Anivia, the likely answers in the mid lane here. It's just kind of your preference. Shanks has played a lot more Cassiopeia. I do think most of the time this is going to be the better pick because it gives you more damage in the later part of the game. But generally, these have been the two answers to Rise, and certainly makes sense if you want to go in that direction. But Tarzan going back to the well. He said, I don't care that we didn't win on the Neferi. I'm going to go back to a carry in game number 3.
I'll say this just for vibes, a vibe check. Late champion switches at the very last second never inspire good vibes, especially if you're switching out of role. What I will say is, if you're picking, 2 picks back-to-back, the vibes are fine. So immediately, I'm going to rescind my point here. We still get the Cassio for Shanks, and it's still Tarzan calling his shot. And that's what's most inspiring here. Like, AL need to live or die by Tarzan. Him going to their carry jungler, fine. But it is the hyperscales AD carry once again still coming through for Elk. It just needs more time to cook than either of the other two he's played in this series.
I think Sivir is like the best thing you can possibly draft here if you are Elk for Weibo Gaming. I think with the comp that you're staring down on the other side, it is just so scary to have to play this without a spell shield, and you gain a little bit of self-sustain there. You can shove waves relatively easily. The question now is, what do these teams want to ban out? Weibo will obviously have the first crack at this second phase of bans. I think tanks on the top side, to me, it need to go. I am scared of the Renata, but I think that 2v2 can kind of be neutralized, and Kael has a lot of options still left up on the board. I am very scared of something like Ornn coming out from Anyone's Legend and just really making this as stable of a comp as they could possibly make it. That, to me, would be my priority. I think you can say similar things about Weibo's comp as well, though, perhaps potentially wanting a tank on that top side for some freer engage. For now, it is just going to be that bot lane priority focus with all of these supports kind of taken out of the first 2 games.
Came out of that game 2 praising Erha for to a pretty engaged support-heavy role here. The the Renata ban, like, this is screaming to me that they want to just have him slam Rel or Leona. Or even maybe like a Thresh look, right? Now with the Nautilus ban out of the way.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Rel Leona make a lot of sense here. I think Rakan could make some sense here as well.
Rakan too.
I think that's another champion that I really am looking at for both of these teams that I think could be pretty highly prioritized in this game. I think either way, it's going to be somebody that can make plays on the map, likely for both of these teams. AL might really go out of left field and potentially go for an Enchanter here. I don't think it's likely, but it definitely could be possible if you really wanted to go for a more dominant 2v2 with the Varus, but it's going to be the Jax taken off the board. Tanks are available, so is the Rek'Sai. I think that is a really important thing here for both of these sides, to see if, especially AL, maybe want to go in that direction. But Ornn and Cassante, 2 massive tanks, definitely still on the board if Weibo want to go in that direction.
There's that Rakan. Good shot by you, Kman, to really pair up with this Nocturne playmaking with that valuable charm. And I'm glad you kind of emphasized the Rek'Sai here, because despite AL being with their backs against the wall, we still do favor a lot of their innate champion pools as Fearless goes along, and that Rek'Sai for Flandre is a big focal point of that. He'll have to blind here into Zika, as we do get the Rel lock in for Kael, who's looking to bounce back from a very bland playmaking game from Kael that's becoming more and more apparent in 2026.
This to me makes it less likely that it's Rek'Sai because he has to blind it, but it's still definitely possible. K'Sante is looking mighty good here. If it's me, and I'm just saying, no worries about it, but might just be the Rek'Sai lock-in here and just not worrying about it too much. Again, back to that comfort for Flandre. This is his second most played champion across 2026 up until this point. There's not really consistent ways to be able to disengage on the side of AL, but man, if you get this Qiyana Cassio rolling with a Varus to be able to fire these long-range arrows, that damage is coming through, and it's not like there's not a volatile comp on the side of Weibo either, even if they round it out with something more passive on the top side. This is going to be an explosive game, and you want to talk about explosions. Camille is on the Rift.
Hey, Hope Man, really tough misfortune angle last time. Good luck. That is a Nocturne ult, a Rakan ult, and a Camille ult. I don't care how much range Varus has, man. That is... I'm the AD carry guy, Kman. I can't help. That would make me just tell my team, guys, good luck. I'm not going to be effective.
Slayer, this level 6 spike from Weibo, this like 1.5, 2 item like area time, this mid game from Weibo, run. Like, get out of there. You're like, you gotta be scared because they can target anybody. It's Cassio Varus. You've got no mobility on your 2 main carries in this game if you are anyone's legend. Now, I do want to say, I think their early laning phases can actually be really effective. If they are able to generate some leads and get shove in, it can kind of take away some of the opportunities to play the map for Weibo, but they have to do that because I think the damage coming out from Weibo in this game is massive, and they have a lot of easy ways to get on their primary carries.
A very Uncharted Territory-esque game here for anyone's legends, but we applaud them for sticking to their guns. It's early tempo, Tarzan looking to carry. Surely they can't fall to a slow-scaling comp from Weibo once again. But this is a different beast of a Weibo Gaming squad that has shown up to this not only lower bracket, but to a matchup they are heavily pushed as the underdog in. It's, you know, you can't ignore the parallels this draft has to that game 2-1, even with 10 different champions on the board. Let's see if it has a different result here for anyone's legend, and they're going to need the AL Jiejie to help them bring it in.
Fan support definitely leaning in one direction over the other right now, and I think the series would generally agree with that assumption, with the way that things are playing out. It's actually going to be the double invade coming in from both of these junglers, both taking the Raptors on this side. It is the march to level 6 for both of them, but man, this Nocturne gets to level 6 early. Things could get quite dangerous. Hopefully they will at least have some vision on him at the current moment as we get these first initial clears for the junglers.
We have another exciting top lane matchup that obviously we touched on a little bit, but again, want to emphasize the fact that Flandre, in my mind, can claim to be the best Rek'Sai player in the world still on this champion, but he is yet to really match up with a Camille, which is a unique kind of lane demographic, Kman, for you to try and diagnose like how this plays out.
Yeah, I actually am glad you passed that off to me because I think this is a really fun laning phase to talk about. Camille is going to be so strong at this point in the game. This will get better for Rek'Sai. I think you're not really worried too much about the laning phase part of this. It's the Camille dive that you're incredibly terrified of if you are just going to make this happen, especially now with a vertical jungle happening. Vertical. Camille's going to have so much safety from this Nocturne early on in the game. And for AL, while their bot lane might be a little bit more protected, like, you're not going to be capitalizing all that much on a potential Sivir or Rakan. This is definitely something that I think favors Weibo, already going into this draft saying that, okay, well, you know, it's probably the best lane that AL have, to be quite frank. I think that the Cassio can do well individually, but not really a ton of kill pressure there without jungle intervention. This is going to need to be a big performance out of Tarzan, utilizing this pressure he's getting on the bottom side of the map.
Tarzan opening that 3-0 kill count in game 2. The AL wanted to lean on. How valuable is it for AL and Tarzan to get back into that carry spot? Still need to give him time to farm, though. That's a great cancel from Erha. Kael gets knocked out of his crash down. Heal for the speed up. Elk starting to throw these balancing blazes, gets the lethal tempo online, and, well, another one of those focal points for an AL turnaround you talked about is not going their way. It's Erha and Elk again that are just better in the 2v2.
It's a vertical jungle, and your bot lane has to back, and now Jiejie's mid lane on Shanks.
Yep, Shanks is going to get Root Prism, Root Tarzan's nearby. Shanks is going to desperately flash towards his jungler with no mana. And it was a root out from Tarzan, but from bad to worse. Flash off of your immobile Cassiopeia.
Slayer, I don't mean to panic. I really don't. It's way too early in the game to get concerned. But, like, when I think of when AL need to generate their leads, it's right now. It's like pre-level 6. It's the laning phases where they should be able to push out a lot of these waves and feel more aggressive to try and skirmish around this lack of Nocturne ultimate to be able to kind of react and move to a lot of these fights. This is not going to get easier for them. Flandre, you know, gonna have a little bit of an easier time. So he actually goes in here on the knockup.
Yeah, unraveled Earth below. There's no flash on this Camille, by the way, to ignite for Zika. Luckily able to walk out, but Tarzan is on the hunt. Zika is not slowing down. He is hookshot all the way back to his tier 2 turret, knowing that Tarzan could be in the area. Zika not even in the brush. He walks all the way back to his tier 2 turret. Ultimate respect to Tarzan, who was hunting. And Xiaohu's going to flash on Shanks in the mid lane.
No flash on Shanks.
Set up the Root Prism, and that is a snake with his head soon to be separated from his body. It's only a matter of time before Xiaohu, no, Jiejie, picks up first blood. Great revisit as Jiejie's masterclass series just continues.
Slayer, you know why that's even more concerning? Because Nocturne's not even level 6 yet. Kael, though, looking.
Flash stun, crash out, Flandre gets the knock-up. Is there enough damage? Yes, the double grand entrance from Erha isn't there. Nice little find from Kael, because that window was narrow.
That is a necessary play for anyone's legend. I was about to be in full panic mode because you have a flash burned on the Cassiopeia and you die before Nocturne hits level 6. You best believe he's coming back at level 6 if that's going to be the case. But luckily you get some gold back, and specifically onto this Rek'Sai, who I think is in the best spot to continue to play through this top side. Like I said, I think this is the part of the game where it gets a little bit easier. You just need to survive those first couple levels. If you are the Rek'Sai in that 1v1 matchup, Camille's still going to be very relevant in this game, but definitely more of a pathway in, even if you have to burn the teleport to use it.
So the gold lead back towards even, but with this vertical jungle slant, I was curious if Zika was going to try and set up into a sort of proxy behind the wave. No, he'll just look for a reset here. We still have the first dragon on the rift, by the way. Tarzan was eyeing it, but he's got camps to clear, so he'll come off of that spot here. Is important to mention, even though Sivir is Kman, kind of that weaker lane, needs a lot of time to scale, it is relatively hard to hold push in this bottom lane 2v2 because Sivir can just clear out those waves in an instant, and once the Essence Reaver comes around, there's no real tax onto the Sivir's kit to do so.
I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I brought up the fact that it's going to be really difficult from this point onwards to punish a lot of these laning phases, and it's why I emphasize top lane so much, because even with the Cassio being a counterpick to Ryze in the laning phase, hard to really capitalize on that, especially with no flash. Ult, though, for Hope, gonna get burned. Ult for cleanse.
Yep, and that's why Elk takes the cleanse here, as spell shield and cleanse, really nullifying Hope's playmaking, at least in the lane. But all that pressure for now, and with Xiaohu having to roam down for potential look towards the bot side, it means that Tarzan can kind of sneak in and start this first dragon. Jiejie's in the area with Paranoia up, but there is no vision on Tarzan. And despite how slow-natured this clear was, with Hope's help, that will be the Cloud Drake secured by Tarzan. People were making rumblings in this river. Erha in the area looking for a grand entrance knockup. Hope, good sidestep there. And there won't be a realm warp, there won't be a Paranoia. That global threat on the map for Weibo is not going to be capitalized on just yet, Kman.
I like this from Weibo. You don't need to force this right now. I really don't think there's any reason to try and fight over this particular dragon. Your comp scales incredibly well going into the mid game. That's really the only objective that you can't feel comfortable fighting over, especially with Grubs coming up in just under a minute here. That's where you want to utilize, I think, a lot of your resources to try to find a lot of these picks. Both of these comps are really kind of specialized in trying to catch out the immobile parts of their comp when they're grouped up like that so consistently around an objective. It's going to be a lot more difficult. For now, though, you're looking at the lane states. We are seeing a lot of gold leads come in from Weibo, at least small ones, especially in the jungle here, but overall, really not a big difference in terms of where these two teams are at. AL still can look for one big fight. If you can get some gold onto priority carries, especially Tarzan in this game, it can neutralize a lot of the pressure that Weibo can put out in the mid game.
Every minute that this gold lead is a couple hundred towards Weibo, even, is a better investment and a worrying sign for AL as this game goes on. And I know we continue to be very, hypercritical of AL, the spot they're in down 0-2, hypercritical of even like their opening minutes here. but it's just important to remember where this team was regarded coming into 2026 with the same roster, the things they were able to accomplish domestically in the LPL against every team not named, you know, Jackie Love, Top Esports, and BLG. To be here in this spot is way below the bar that has been set for this 5 set of players.
I mean, even if you just look at what they've accomplished this year, ignoring the fact that they're 5 running back from taking T1 to 5 games at Worlds last year, this was the #1 seed in the LPL in the regular season. They were dominant in terms of being able to clean up towards the end of the regular season. Basically, all their problems came at the beginning of January. Now they're sitting at a point where they just don't really have a lot of tempo. Tarzan on the bot side, gonna look for something on Elk, but there's nothing to find here. It's Sivir under tower. That's free grubs going over to Weibo Gaming, and once again, it's an objective that they get without any pushback.
And while it wasn't a real focal point of Game 2, side laning is such a plus here for Weibo. Again, as they want to play slow. They want to separate AL, force them to respond to waves. Camille with 3 grubs, Rise with 3 grubs. And now it's Jiejie, potentially looking for his first Paranoia gank. Channeling the recall, but we'll see if Zika commits that Hextech ultimatum. No, the reset will come through, and Kman, back to the point. 3 grubs, Rise, Camille versus Rek'Sai, Cassio. That's a very big point of emphasis.
Yeah, I mean, not only do they have the side lane pressure, but they utilize that side lane pressure for free kills whenever they want, with all of the tools that they have. This is a comp that is built to be able to play this map, and now with 3 grubs, not only is it easier to play the map, but you get more for playing the map. I think both of those things become true with the grubs, and I don't think that gets talked about nearly as much as it should. It's not really just about making sure that you can have an easier time. It's the opportunity cost goes up so much for a team that already really benefits in that stage. So no objectives on the map for now. The question is Paranoia. That's where the eyes are going to be. All eyes are going to be on Jiejie. He's been phenomenal throughout this series. Cassio does have that flash back up, but both the Cass and the Varus are very immobile. One Paranoia will likely cost at least 1 sum wherever it's used.
Speaking on Jiejie's performances, I think this is no better time than now with the spot he's in to highlight. What that thought actually. Kael's gonna get caught here. That's the quickness, the charm, the knockup, but Jiejie doesn't spring the trap there. Doesn't throw down the Paranoia. Doesn't jump on Kael. So they're just gonna use that support ultimate for a bit of pressure. The point I want to make here is I want to take a look at, you know, all time, the stats behind Tarzan and Jiejie, because, you know, on paper, Kman, you'd kind of think that matchup to matchup, it would be a bit more Tarzan-sided, but now, especially considering these 2 games that Jiejie has won, it's 18-14. It is a very narrow scoreline between these 2.
I mean, these are 2 of the most legendary junglers in LPL history, both of them having a ton of accomplishments, one of them being a world champion, but
there's the Paranoia, Hextech ultimatum, the lockdown we were looking at from draft, springs the trap for the first time under Weibo's name, and it's Zika getting a critical kill.
Yeah, Zika picking up a critical kill and Jiejie getting 1 step closer to making that 14-15 as we get lower on our screen here. That is how you want to use that Paranoia early on in the game. That 1-item power spike that can really be a big difference maker for the Nocturne. We are starting to get to the part of the game where I think Weibo might just completely control the map with their ability to play any fight that they want. Dragon has spawned. There is no Paranoia. Rise on the top side, so macro advantage to AL, but how are they going to use it? As Elk is at least zoning out the bot lane for now. Oh, Shanks.
Xiaohu. Do they even need their ultimates to spring this trap? They got a Root Prism, a flash to get the fear down. Shanks, he flashes, he turns the punch, fine guys, but Jiejie gets around it. Flandre coming in, trying to get the knockup. Shanks is very low, but that's a clutch find from Flandre to save Shanks for another fight. This is just been trying to kite away from Xiaohu. Flandre's trying to play bodyguard to make sure none of these Qs can land, but the flash and the hook shot from Zika finds that trade kill. Where is Tarzan? Where is the rest of AL trying to back up their solo lanes? They're trading this for a dragon. It's gold to Weibo and a new clear victory point for AL with 2 dragons stacked up.
Yeah, they get the dragon, and most importantly, Flandre is trying his best to salvage all of this game for anyone's legend. Once again, basically turning a play where Shanks is overextended in the mid lane into something that is at least salvageable for the team as a whole. He wants to win this on Rek'Sai, but even then, he can't do everything. Zika's going to get quite a bit on the top side for this. Flandre's still quite low. Kael is here, but I think Zika should be fine.
Right. Yep. There's not really enough kill threat. Ooh. A marksman ult off coming across. Elk pops the on the hunt just to make sure that Hope maybe can't find that lockdown. It was all a bit of a ruse to get Hope in an uncomfortable spot, and that includes his turret. Lights go out, chains of corruption, a fleeting hope that has been dashed as Kael looks for the play that crashed out into the stun, layered with a split display of talent, and we're getting plays on all sides of the map now. 1 kill apiece, split across the top and bot lanes.
Yeah, great kill for kill trade there for both teams. I think they gain a lot from that. Now it's just a race to see where the first tower is going to go down. Will it be Weibo or AL that can pick that up? That is going to be a really important spike. Obviously, Grubs on the side of Weibo Gaming definitely give them an advantage. But Flandre, by himself on the top side, they don't feel like they can commit to this. Jiejie trying to get it quite a bit, but he's invaded too far.
And now Shanks has found Xiaohu, who's trying to cover the Hex Gates. We'll get Jiejie on out of there safe and sound. And now we have some TPs being wagered, but Flandre, with all that action on the bot side, will pick up that first turn and use his tunnels to get away there from Zika. So we're kind of settling back into AO, playing that map smarter to garner gold. It's just this time not to extend a lead, Kman. It's to re-garner a lead.
Yeah, I actually think it's really impressive in this game what they're capable of doing, because this is not a part of the game where they should really be able to find any footing at all. This is where Weibo's comp is by far at its strongest in terms of when they want to play these fights. And so for them to be able to find these avenues to get back, specifically Flandre, really impressive stuff, as Shanks and Elk just going to have a stare off down on the bottom side. But this Rek'Sai has been massive. Getting that first tower gold is going to continue to let this champion accelerate. And now that we've got some objectives coming up, Herald in 20 seconds, and we could potentially be seeing even more action on the top side of the map.
Starting to settle in on some of these key items coming through. The Profane Hydra, Tarzan near 2 items, those cheap lethality items on Hope, innate value compared to the scaling lean from Elk. Again, this is the point in the game where item-wise, with the gold so narrow, you do have some slight advantages on the AL side as it currently stands.
Definitely. You are in a spot where you very much can try and fight. I'm a little bit worried about this Cassio in terms of the damage that can be output, but as long as you're able to neutralize that backline dive, things can definitely still be successful. Tarzan, by the way, doing a great job of just having more pressure on the map than Jiejie right now on this Kiana, something he really failed to do at last game on the Nefiri, even with the 4 free kills.
Kael is on a ward.
Hacking on Vision.
Yep, Zika gonna interrupt him with the hook shot. They are bringing over the cavalry. The Hextech Ultimatum will come down and trap Kael, but he just drops the Magnet Storm and kind of invites them as Shanks and Tarzan look for the turret. Zika's out. Tarzan flashing forward to bring the play out. Only hits on to Erha, and he gets out with ease. A good look from Tarzan, but that's a lot of resources just to get one measly support as Xiaohu looks for the trade onto a bot lane tier 1 turret.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. You're getting a little more than the support, luckily, because the Herald is spawning at this exact moment, so that's a free pickup for anyone's legend. That should help them at least, kind of neutralize some of the gold they lose from this particular tower, but specifically it going on Ryze, I think is really important. We talk about Cassio being a big counter pick to Ryze. Where that becomes relevant is when you're in a position where you can capitalize on Ryze's playmaking ability. Now, if he's just standing there, machine gun Ryze, killing your entire front line, it's going to be a little less relevant, especially when your main tank in this game is going to be a support Rel and a Rek'Sai. So definitely going to be important for them to shut down this mid laner and to make sure these side lanes don't get out of control.
A lot for AL to handle. We continue to approach more and more critical junctures in this game. Now have the Axiom arc done here for Tarzan as he gets over to that 2-item threshold. We still have Elk, who's farmed supremely well, totally done and dusted with his coal. He has himself the biggest gold lead currently on the map, and he's already done with the Navori Flicker Blades. And we have to start, approaching that conversation, Kman, of when do we feel like Elk Sivir will be game warping. It's usually that 3 to 4 item mark for a champion of this scaling caliber.
Yeah, we're definitely still a ways off from Elk being able to completely take over in a lot of these fights, but we're getting closer and closer. And if I know anything about Elk, he's going to try and fight even without the power spike, as we see Weibo.
He's ahead of schedule.
Setting up a trap here.
Another death brush here that Kael will happily walk up to and take about half his HP. Gets Xiaohu's ghost out. We have the TP come across here for Shanks. Zika is totally comfortable, leisurely enjoying his top lane vacation onto the tier 1 turret, but he's going to have to make his way down here. This is Hextech's sole point. AL's clear win con left in the game, and Weibo look a little bit disjointed, undecided what they want to do. Zika will just now finish off the turret, and he's not TPing. Weibo are going to give up sole point and trade immediate gold for it.
I really don't like this trade, Slayer. I understand that you are getting gold onto the Camille, which can be valuable, but you're getting a tier 1 on the top side and a couple of plates onto the tier 2. This is really not a worthwhile gold trade because it forces a fight a little bit later on in the game when AL have caught up a little bit more. I mean, this is a team that was down in gold already at this fight, and while you have a lot of resources to be able to burn, I think with a Camille there to lock down these immobile carries, you can definitely still win it. It'll be interesting to see if they just want to wait for that Elk power spike like you talked about for this Sivir to get online, but it's starting to get a little bit dangerous, the resources going over to anyone's legend.
It's a dangerous game to play with this bridge. I always love that bridge analogy, Kman. I'm going to kind of evolve it for this game, like a drawbridge. You know, those shaky bridges that kind of swing back and forth. It's like not a real stable one. Because you're playing for the scale of a Ryze and a Sivir, but, you know, the more steps you take towards them, the weaker the latches of your Nocturne. Of, you know, potentially your recon value kind of get leaky on the other side. So it's fine to have Nocturne be kind of that reliable ult bot to turn off the lights, but you are kind of cutting the legs out of who I would say has been one of your best performing players of the series so far in Jiejie, the longer you lean into that scaling aspect.
I agree. I think that this team really wanted to try and play around this Paranoia Realm Warp combo where you could constantly
play, right?
be making plays. Level 6 play. I mean, that level 6 to level 11, that's when Nocturne Rise really wants to open up the map, even with something like a Camille trying to make plays with that teleport around the map. There are plenty of tools. Now, Weibo do have a gold lead, most of that being on primary carries, which is the best thing you can possibly say. But we're looking bot side. Shanks is immobile.
Yep. Oh, there we go. Lights out. Nocturne on top of you. Nice flake, Shanks. Guess who's behind you? It's Zika. Another great rat. Hexing ultimate on the Kael, who's like a fish out of water, completely caught. Tarzan has to throw down a split talent, hits onto 4, and he uses the Herald to allow Kael to escape, but the Realm Warp brings 4 forward. After Tarzan goes Zika with the hook shot, but Tarzan gets out. Chains the Corruption can hold Zika in place. Kael goes after the mid-tier 1 turret with his Herald, as Hope does end up popping Zika. Doesn't flash out in time as Elk's Boomerang Blades will find that trade. Pandemonium came in and somehow ends up with a positive kill trade for Weibo, but positive turret trades for AL.
Somehow we come out of that, Slayer, with gold having not changed at all in terms of the difference between these two teams. Insane fight from both of them. It looks like a fantastic catch from Weibo, but well played by anyone's legend to be able to disengage and at least get something from it. This is what you need to be utilizing Nocturne for. Not just Nocturne, but the Rise power spike here as well, who's really starting to come online in terms of his damage. Shanks has no chance to be able to get out of here. Really nice petrifying gaze from him. Unfortunately, you've got the Camille on the back end, and that makes this tough. Kael a little bit out of position. He should be dead, but the Tarzan save from the Herald is absolutely massive. The flank coming in from Elk, who's a little bit out of position to be able to speed up the rest of the team, but the knock-up coming in from the Herald as well, actually delaying the ability for the rest of the team to get in after the Realm Warp. It does cost Hope his life. Tarzan able to escape, but at the end of the day, an okay trade for both teams as both of them end up getting gold where they want it. But Weibo, look at the gold difference between their carries now.
It's just like brass tacks. 1,000 gold lead on your Rex side at this point compared to 1,000 on the Sivir, 1,000 on the Rise. Like, these gold leads aren't all the same. Like, they're not all graded the same, right? And it's really all just this massively pressurized crutch for AL of this Hextech Soul. The more this game goes on, the more I feel if they don't pick this up, they just get outscaled in this series.
I mean, you're absolutely right, Slayer, but let's think about this. You're going to have a lot of chances to pick this up. That's why it's so scary to give over Soul Point, is Weibo is sitting at 0 Drakes. If they want to take away Dragon Soul forever on this map, you got to win 4 Dragon fights in a row. And eventually, you're going to get to a point where things can get a little bit slippery towards the end of this game. So that's why it's so concerning that you're in this position in terms of the objectives and why you gave it over so freely. Even if you do feel comfortable being able to win the front-to-backs, there's always that lingering thought in the back of your mind that Hex Soul could actually bring this back for anyone's legend. And with 40 seconds on the respawn timer for Soul for anyone's legend, that's definitely going to be the next thing that everybody's pointing towards.
And what makes that even bigger of a point, right, is the fact that AL can trade 1 Drake for a Baron if they want, right? How do Weibo even answer that? As we do see Flandre and Kael looking on to Elk there, but he's able to get back out to safety. So huddled around his team here, Erha and Jiejie holding down the front fort as the poke war is officially commenced here. Shanks, though, looking to really affect the fight off to the side as we have our observers toggle that vision for AL. Zika also moved over, but everybody backs off. It feels like they're waiting for those timers, which is now. Hextech, Soul Drake, and Baron all on the cards at the same time. Will this be the start of an AL comeback down from the desperate 0-2, a spot they've never been in? This fight could really decide that.
Yeah, Shanks has to TP in because he's so out of position. They're going to try and force this fight before Zika can
There's
get here.
Kael, gets onto Elk, the sprint to stay down is perfect! There's Tarzan and Kael linking up, and Shanks does it, the Petrified Gaze to block everybody else off, and the Void Rush from Flandre finds Erha, and AL finally get back to a fight-winning way, absolutely wiping down Weibo. Zika just has to watch as his entire team falls. AL fight win, maybe just secures them this game win, because they get the Hextech Soul as the crown jewel of their victory.
It's a game-losing mistake here from Weibo Gaming. They have such a good setup, but the teleport coming in from Shanks is just not identified quick enough from Zika, who fails to be able to travel back. The moment they can start to play front-to-back in a 5v4, they're able to exert so much pressure, as we see in this. Elk is just too far forward. He is playing too aggro. It's helped him in previous games in this series. Kael, Tarzan, they are taking full advantage of it in game number 3. That Sivir is off the map. No spell shield even thrown out, and at this point, there's no way to win the fight without the Sivir being available. Your front lane also completely bursted here. The Ryze can't do everything, but they're gonna try to pull back here.
Trying to catch them after the Baron take, but Tarzan goes invisible. Kael's there to protect. It's a great Chains of Corruption from Hope as well. Do we really want to dive this tier 2 turret with Zika? Maybe throw the entire game away? No. AL locking in finally, and they won't even give away a kill after taking the Baron and the Soul.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes from bad to worse here for Weibo. That's Paranoia. A pretty big cooldown that's kind of utilized here for basically nothing. This was a fantastic start for Weibo that unfortunately is just not in a spot where they can continue it. Tarzan is massive, and you know who's been unbelievably good is this Rek'Sai for Flandre on the top side, who has absolutely run a ton of this game. It's been one of his best champions throughout all of this year. He's continuing to have a huge impact as they are pushing in aggressively.
I mean, hey, 3 items done. You feel like the best player on the Rift. That's the type of movements you make as Tarzan, who is now put a stranglehold on the gold gap, finally answering into Jiejie. But the gold being 4K up, the real hurt pockets there for Weibo. What was it, a 2K lead between each of Elk and Xiaohu at one point? It's down to a mere couple hundred shillings.
And it's 2,500 for that jungler for Tarzan on this Kiana. This game is looking dire, especially with that Hextech Soul. This is why you can't really afford to give over Soul Point for free. It's a massive mental error. Xiaohu could be in trouble under this tower if he's not careful on this Ryze, but it's going to be that push coming in, this Baron buff being utilized to full effect by anyone's legend as they continue to just destroy what is remaining of Weibo's base.
There goes another turret. Trying to get rid of all those tier 2 turrets. Weibo have been very cognizant of trying to defend the mid tier 2, but the 4-1 block is a staple for a reason. Flandre going to bring another wave up to that aforementioned turret. Won't necessarily look to try and crack it here. He's trying to look to see if any fight breaks out, knowing the fact that a Paranoia, a Realm Warp, and an Instinct can put Weibo in a better position to fight, but the tier 2 turret nonetheless falls, and the gold accrued continues to stack here for AL as the push continues.
They are just pushing in repeatedly. 30 seconds on this Baron buff. They want this tower before they end up leaving. I'm not quite sure they're going to be able to get it. They're going to try and rotate into the mid lane. But we'll see if they can actually find their way in. If Weibo aren't careful, this could be a game-ending dive from AL. They have to be very worried about their backline here.
I mean, the Hextech Soul value, you saw it right there. 1 Tarzan Q, 1 Piercing Arrow from Hope, and slowing and chunking down Erha to half health. Is a valuable point to make here, though, Kman, that Baron Siege doesn't get a ton of value because that's Sivir and Ryze for you. You really, AL have to win a fight here to really break that base open finally. They can't afford to shove even Baron waves continuously at this Sivir from Elk.
You're absolutely right. You know, the Baron waves alone aren't going to be able to win this game, but the 3,000 gold that they generated from the Baron waves is definitely going to help, as Erha has to be real careful here.
Supreme Display of Talent, he uses the Charm to try and dash. He just flash over the wall to get away. Kael, though, finds a new target to go after, that being Jiejie. Does hold on to his flash for now, will flash alongside his support. Tarzan doesn't have that much damage to complete those kills, but hey, with an Axiom Arc, his ultimate comes up 10 times faster than either of those summoners.
Yeah, I mean, it's going from bad to worse. At this point, they're just trying to get any sort of vision control, but with no objectives on the map right now, you might just need to play as safe as possible. You can't really afford to be burning a lot of these summoners. With Dragon coming up in a minute 30, Elder Dragon, that is game, full stop for anyone's Legend if they're able to pick it up. You can't really be overextending. That's going to be no flash onto your support, no flash onto your Nocturne, very importantly. And look at the items for Noct. That's 2 items. You are not at a point where you're going to be able to fight at all. No Guardian Angels specifically completed for Jiejie in this game. That's going to make this Elder fight so difficult unless he can get that done before the spawn in just over a minute.
Well, the first swing in this series really felt like Jiejie's Baron Steel. Blind, by the way. Looking back at the vision toggle, we talked about that extensively. The Hail Mary is going to have to be that Elder Steel, it feels like. Taking a fight would feel completely uncomfortable. These paranoias, like you mentioned, feel like a one-way trip. The question now really becomes, do Weibo find any sort of, critical item that can come through before this Elder comes across? It doesn't look like components-wise Elk is going to finish that IE anytime soon unless he's sitting on a real big lump sum of gold. Xiaohu still doesn't have a lot of damage behind this Rise, so for the fake gold leads into scale comps conversation, we're just not even there yet for Weibo even.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. Zika,
okay.
When really aggro is going to get some ults, but he's just dead up here, no?
Yeah, he's completely dead. Hey, congrats on, not staring at Medusa's stone vision there on the petrifying gaze, but one-way trip there for Zika, and it could not come out of a worse time. It is 15 seconds till the Elder.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dead top laner for 45 seconds with Elder Dragon spawning. Maybe you're delaying them a little bit, but Shanks has TP. He's just going to be able to get in immediately. This should be free Elder Dragon. It's real. If you thought it was going to need to be a steal before, it's definitely going to need to be a steal now.
I've commonly coined Jiejie as the steel prince of the 2026 so far in the LPL. He's had some big moments, and our great observers toggle the vision just to show you now. The only member of AL they see is Kael, and it's a guessing game for Jiejie as he knows once he walks up to this pit, he'll be spotted. Poke really coming through. Flandre looking to zone. They do get a little bit of vision on Elder. See, it's down to about 8K. Jiejie, oh, you want to use that ward to jump on somebody to at least look for the steal, but now he has no way to look in. They've got the scrying orb down. It's late. Jiejie can even get here. El gets caught by Kael. There's no way into this pit, but Flandre and AL, they're looking to try and turn a fight before the Elder's secured here. They can't really make up their mind. Tarzan at home. They need to finally finish off this Elder. It's no vision. Lights go out. Elder's secured. It's still a flash over the wall from Kael to get out, but Flandre's here. Level 18. Big tank Rek'Sai. Just going to continue walking forward next to Shanks, pushing all the Weibo away, shooing them away, one at a time. And it's AL with the Elder that can maybe force a fight in the base to end this game 3.
Incredibly clinical play from anyone's Legend, not leaving any room for a flip to happen. They want to make sure that Nocturne can't get into the pit, and they do exactly that. It's an AK gold lead. It's Elder Dragon right now as they continue to push down. And, oh, when you look at that Slayer, Baron has spawned on the map, and I'm pretty sure AL are going to feel pretty good about taking that too.
Now, this is one that you do have to give, Weibo. Because you run at the Elder comp, and you're definitely dead. AL, you feel like because they're down 0-2, like, that's why they're taking this really slow, critical approach to all these objectives? They don't even want to, like, give Weibo a shot to flip this game this late?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think at this point, you might as well, right? Like, you're not really losing any time by going and taking the Baron, and you can immediately start pushing the top wave. Like, you can send somebody to stop this Camille, who is taking a bit of gold, but if it's a base race you want, it's a base race I'm sure that they will be happy to take, especially since Nocturne is only backing right now. Spotling turret is not long for this world, neither will this mid lane one. Kael.
It's a very forward strong crash down, but he's not punished nonetheless. Shanks eats a Root Prism. They are trading some health economy for space on these inhibitors, but the inhibitors are going to fall. Both picked up in the top and mid wave, as Zika will return from his escapade to get one tier 2 turret of value. AL circling the entrapment known as Weibo's base that is closing down space, crumbling second by second. Nexus turret first down. Weibo, you got to make a stand at some point. As the lights go out, Jiejie doesn't even go in though. Elk feels no comfort as Nexus turrets are down. It's Jiejie that goes after Hope, but there's the Greybeard Elder Barrel's breath coming through to take down one. Kael will fall. Shanks gets put into a state. Self does find a second kill here. Erha goes down. Zika all of a sudden eviscerates Hope, but they have the Baron, they have the minions there, and they don't even need to kill off Big Bad Elk. AL avoid the sweep and win game 3.
They win game 3 as my camera's a little bit foggy. Maybe, hey, we're all just a little disoriented from that game. But massive, massive win for AL. Obviously, losing it is awful. Like, it's a complete revamp in terms of the way we view this team. And so picking up a win here, being able to stabilize and getting yourself back into the series is necessary. They do it in a way that I think is really encouraging, which is to say when they shouldn't. A mid-game macro gap from a team that I think has really struggled to do that this split. And that's really exciting.
Hey, better late than never. That's where we're at, right? I'm glad you made the statement. That felt like an AL game. If you asked an LPL fan to be like, describe to me an AL win, like how they go about it, you can kind of just present that game 3. Just for other AL fans, you know, take that Photoshop tool and we just scrub out those nice little lines that we put next to each team for every game they win in the series, and they'll be cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, you know, you keep the mental. Hey, one of my big questions for this team was, like, is this mental destroyed? Like, are you coming out of this game to new coaching staff? A lot of these players, like, was the mental destroyed? Well, if it was, we didn't see it in game number 3. And that's the most important part. We saw this team get back to the way that they like to play. I want to make it clear, I still prefer Weibo's draft in this game. Weibo made a lot of mistakes. I think that there were multiple points that you could say, okay, if they do this, they probably win this game. And this was in Weibo's hands. I think that they had this game and kind of threw it away, but AL still did everything they needed to do to capitalize on those mistakes. Right. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. It might not be up to you to be making the plays, but it's the LPL, man. People are going to screw up. It's all about what you do with it.
Exactly. I know. Weibo, like, we come out of that draft and we're like once we get level 6 on this top side, man, let's roll Paranoias. We're realm warping. We're ulting on to Flandre, like immediate 2v1, 3v1. There was like one play. Like we saw it, I think it was the 3rd kill of the game where they did like the level 7 combo of Zika and Jiejie. Flandre was just dead, right? Like after that, Kman, I don't think they really ever got that combo off clean. And that, like you said, was for me like the big main mistake made with this comp.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, there's one very clear play where the game goes from you're winning to it's not winnable. And that is, to me, and I know this is a little earlier than, you know, the big fight that, you know, you lose 2,000 gold in, it's giving Soul Point for free. It's having Zika take tier 1 top lane for absolutely nothing, right? Like, I am so pro giving up the first 2 dragons if it means you get grubs and top lane priority. I think that that is a worthwhile trade in a lot of instances if you feel like you can play the side lanes effectively. You cannot give up Soul Point for nothing. That is just not, especially with the comp you have where you should be stronger at that point in the game, because what is the one big risk of that? Well, you get to one fight where your AD carry gets caught and the game is over because they have Hexal. You can no longer make mistakes. It takes away the room for error, and I think Weibo just played a little too close to the sun in this one.
But here was that big fight that kind of swung things, and for all we've talked about this series with AL of, you know, hey, Tarzan and Kael, they've been inconsistent this split. We still like to grade them as world-class. That fight was one of those moments where we could be like, see, this is why we still have hope in AL. Why we still expect them to put up a fight no matter what the series score is, no matter how much pressure is on them. Those two guys, when they link up perfectly, it's some of the best plays that you see in the LPL, and that was that fight that you feel like, after giving up Soul, of course, Kman, to your good point, was the like, all right, this is an AL game win.
Yeah, I think it's totally valid for Weibo in the early game to say, who cares about the first 2 dragons? Because I agree with that. Like, I think grubs are more valuable than the first 2 dragons. Yeah, I think if you, especially for a comp that has Camille Rise, right? Like, you are winning in that trade. The problem is not the idea. The problem is you took it too far. And it's about pulling it back. And again, AL still had to execute. You still have to go and win the fight. You still have to go and kill Elk in the big exchange. And that trigger pull is what AL has been missing throughout a lot of this series up until this point. It's been Weibo that's actually found their way to walk forward, whereas AL has constantly been walking backward throughout a lot of the games leading up to this. But I think the big difference for me just really comes down to how confident you feel in your decisions. And player of the game actually going to Kael here on the rel. That KDA, you know, not sexy, but definitely still pretty good. Not my personal pick, but certainly one that I think is okay.
Big T Tarzan really should have taken this one home. I mean, that's my pick. Oh, no. Yeah, I see.
I think Mr. Flandre on the top side had a. I think he saved that early game for me. And I think without him, that game becomes a lot harder. I'll tell you that.
Yes, I agree, actually. It was a unanimous Kael one. Man, they must have really liked that that Rift Herald play. Everybody loved that. It's like, you see him escape and then knock two people out on the way. Guys, he's griefing if Tarzan doesn't save him. So I don't know what we're... I love Kael, buddy. You know what? It's an AL win. Who cares about player of the game right now? All Helper and the rest of AL are worrying about is how to approach this game for draft. And, well, I'm sure you're very curious about what that exact path will look like. Kman mostly will have the breakdown for a very critical Game 4 draft. See if AL can bring another Split 1 playoff Game 5. We'll see you guys on the other side for that 4th game.